The calm before the storm. The battlefield was quiet. Too quiet. For the alien soldiers of the Dravken Dominion, silence usually meant victory. It meant their opponents had been crushed, scattered, or too terrified to resist. But this silence was different. Uneasy, stretched like a bowstring drawn to its limit. Admiral Varix clicked his mandibles in irritation, his multifaceted eyes scanning the mist that lingered over the ruined plains. Around him, tens of thousands of Dominion troops stood ready, armored bodies gleaming under the crimson sky. Massive war beasts shifted restlessly, their chains rattling. Overhead, dark carriers floated like hungry predators, waiting for the signal to descend. By all accounts, the humans should have broken by now. Yet they hadn't. "They are too few," growled General Chark, his voice a low rumble through his breathing spines. "The humans cannot withstand the Dominion's might. This world is already ours." Admiral Varix did not reply immediately. His feelers twitched uneasily. He remembered the warnings whispered across the galaxy, stories other species had told. Species that had fought humanity and never recovered. They had called humans reckless, unpredictable, unyielding. They had called them storms made flesh. But Varix had dismissed those tales as exaggerated myths. After all, every empire spoke of its enemies as monsters to justify its own defeats. Still, why did the air taste of ozone? Why did the silence feel like the deep inhale before lightning struck? The waiting. The Dominion's troops had advanced cautiously at dawn, expecting scattered resistance from Earth's battered defenders. Instead, they found empty trenches, abandoned fortifications, and streets that lay still as graves. No gunfire, no traps, no human screams. At first, Dominion scouts had laughed, broadcasting images of deserted cities as proof of their easy victory. "The humans flee," they said. "The storm they promised has passed." But as hours turned to afternoon, the absence grew unsettling. Even the war beasts snarled at shadows. "They hide," said Chark with disdain. "They crawl like vermin. When we flush them out, their bones will pave our victory march." Admiral Varix only clicked his mandibles again. He had fought too many campaigns to trust in easy victory. And humans, if the stories were true, were never easy. The first sign. It began with thunder. At first distant like a storm building over the horizon. But there were no storm clouds in the sky, only the unbroken crimson light of a Dominion-occupied world. Yet the thunder grew louder, closer, rhythmic, not thunder. Footsteps. The Dominion's lines rippled with unease as the sound carried across the battlefield. Boom, 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 like the pounding of war drums, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. "Report," snapped Varix, his voice carrying across the comms. A scout drone zipped ahead, its lenses searching. Static. Then, just for a heartbeat, it captured a figure in the mist. A human silhouette. 1 became 10. 10 became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. They emerged not from trenches, nor from ruins, but from the mist itself, as though the battlefield had conjured them. Helmets glinted with blue sparks. Their weapons hummed with power. And they walked forward in perfect silence, except for their footsteps, which pounded like thunder. It wasn't just soldiers. The humans moved like a storm front, rolling inexorably forward, their formation rippling with terrifying unity. The storm had arrived. The clash. "Fire!" General Chark roared, his command bursting across Dominion lines. Artillery boomed. Plasma streaked through the mist. War beasts bellowed as Dominion cannons unleashed hell. The humans did not scatter. They did not falter. The first volley slammed into their ranks, and the battlefield exploded in light. But instead of bodies falling, the humans raised their weapons as one, and a shimmering wall of electromagnetic energy surged forward, dispersing the Dominion's plasma fire like rain against rock. The defenders did not retreat. They advanced. Their counterstrike was sudden, violent, like lightning splitting the sky. Precision rifles tore through Dominion infantry. Arcs of directed energy lanced from human lines, severing war beast chains and turning the beasts against their masters. The sound was deafening, not just the weapons but the humans themselves. They shouted. They screamed. They roared. Not in fear, but in fury, voices rising like a hurricane. Varix felt his chest tighten. They were not simply soldiers. They were the storm, spikes and dips. For a moment, the Dominion's sheer numbers began to push back. Chark's armored vanguard smashed through a human flank, driving them into the ruins of a collapsed building. Varix allowed a flicker of relief to creep in. Perhaps the storm could be weathered after all. Then the building itself came alive. Human commandos rose from the rubble, springing traps laid days earlier. Mines erupted beneath Dominion walkers, flipping the towering machines like toys. Plasma fire turned inward as hacked Dominion turrets swiveled on their own ranks. And above it all, human voices echoed. Hold the line. Push forward. No retreat. Their words were not mere commands. They were sparks, igniting the fury of every soldier within earshot. The Dominion pressed harder, desperation bleeding into their attacks. Blades clashed. Plasma seared flesh. The battlefield became chaos, a storm of metal, fire, and blood. And through it all, the humans kept moving forward. The realization. By nightfall, the Dominion's advance had stalled completely. The once proud army, numbering in the tens of thousands, was fractured and scattered. Dominion beasts tore at their handlers. Dominion machines burned in the streets, and Dominion soldiers cowered behind shattered barricades. But the humans, though bloodied, though battered, still advanced. Varix stood atop his command platform, staring at the impossible sight. His war map flickered with red, Dominion losses climbing by the second. He could feel the fear spreading through his ranks, the same fear he had dismissed as myth. Now he understood. The storm wasn't weather. It wasn't nature's wrath. It was them, the humans. Hook for Chapter 2. As darkness fell and lightning cracked across the sky, born not of weather, but of human war machines discharging raw energy, the Dominion army began to fracture. Admiral Varix knew the truth now. The battle was no longer about conquest. It was about survival. And if the stories were true, the storm was only just beginning. The storm unleashed. The battlefield smelled of ozone and charred metal. The alien sky crackled with electricity, not from clouds, but from the discharge of weapons and ruptured energy cores. Smoke clung low to the earth, like the field itself was reluctant to reveal what remained beneath. The Kael'thari legions regrouped. Their lines had fractured under the first human push, but alien discipline was ironclad. Warriors reformed with mechanical precision, shields overlapping, rifles humming with lethal blue charge. Their commander, General Vrrkal, strode among them, mandibles twitching with restrained fury. They are only flesh, he hissed. The storm they mimic is illusion. Hold your lines. Drown them with fire. But illusions do not leave wreckage smoldering in the mud. Illusions do not silence entire battalions in the span of minutes. From the haze, the humans emerged again. Not in neat ranks, not in uniform waves like the Kael'thari. They came scattered, unpredictable, as if the storm itself had splintered them into shards of fury. Some sprinted low across the ground. Others stood tall with weapons blazing. A few carried nothing at all, just jagged metal rods or blades scavenged from the broken battlefield. And yet they advanced. The eye before the storm. For a heartbeat, there was quiet. A thin drizzle began to fall from the heavens, cutting rivulets through the dust. Among the human ranks, Captain Elias Hayes raised his hand, palm open to the sky. Rain struck his skin, mixing with the dried blood of battle. His men slowed, as if waiting for the cue. The aliens, too, faltered, their instincts uneasy at this fragile silence. Listen, Elias whispered, though his voice carried across comms. That sound? That's the world telling us it remembers storms. And we... He looked across the field, where hundreds of alien eyes glared back. We are the storm it fears. The soldiers around him didn't cheer. They didn't need to. Their silence was heavier than thunder. The breaking point, the Kael'thari fired first. A wall of plasma erupted from their lines, so bright it cut the falling rain into steam. The ground shattered, earth melting into rivers of glass where the beams struck. And then the humans moved, not away but forward. They didn't scatter to dodge the fire. They ran into it, twisting, diving, vaulting over burning craters with a speed and wildness that made the alien targeting systems falter. Shields flickered as human rifles barked their reply, short, brutal bursts that found cracks in the alien phalanx. "Why don't they break?" hissed Verarkal, watching through his visor as another of his frontliners fell. "Why don't they fall back?" Because humans had learned something the Kael'thari never had. Storms do not retreat. The lightning within. Private Anya Cortez hit the dirt beside a shattered armored walker, her breath ragged. Her weapon was gone, burned to slag in her hands minutes ago. The alien plasma had seared across her shoulder, leaving flesh raw and smoking. She should have been finished. But through the rain she saw Elias, still standing, still charging. Around him, the others pushed with a fury that made alien discipline crumble. And something ignited in her chest. She tore a steel rod from the wreck beside her, sparks still clinging to its edge. Her vision blurred with pain, but she didn't slow. She screamed, a raw, human sound, and plunged into the nearest Kael'thari line. The aliens recoiled, not because of the crude weapon but because of the fire in her eyes. To them, lightning was a terror that split the heavens. To humans, it was something you carried inside. The collapse. The Kael'thari formation broke. Not all at once. First a ripple, then a shiver, then a full collapse as human ferocity tore open gaps too wide to seal. One alien tried to rally, raising a war banner high. A human shot cut it in half. Another tried to stabilize a shield wall, until Elias charged through, ripping it down with his bare hands. The battlefield roared with sound. Explosions, rain, screams. But beneath it was something subtler, more terrifying. Rhythm. The humans fought not as soldiers but as storm surge. Uncoordinated to alien eyes, yet each strike flowed into the next. A burst here, a blade there. A push that toppled not one soldier but the 5 who had braced behind him. To the Kael'thari it was chaos. To the humans it was music. The aftermath silence. Hours later the battlefield was still. Rain continued to fall, washing blood into the earth. The Kael'thari were gone. What few survived had fled, leaving their dead behind. Their weapons, their armor, their banners, all abandoned in the mud. Elias stood among his soldiers, soaked to the bone, his voice low but steady. "They'll come again," he said. "Maybe with more ships, more soldiers. But let them come. Let them bring their storms." He lifted his hand to the sky again, lightning arcing faintly across the clouds as if answering him. Because the truth is simple. Out here on the battlefield, the storm isn't weather, it's us. And as the thunder rolled across the horizon, every soldier knew it wasn't the sky that had won this day. It was humanity, the storm that learned to sing in lightning, to thrive in chaos, to strike harder the louder the world roared.